In today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement, we're going to talk about 5 strategies to consider for one of the biggest concerns that we see for those that come to work with us and for those that are watching this channel. And this concern is simply making sure that their spouse is good to go when they pass away. And so with this channel, we work with a lot of people who are extremely smart. A lot of them have looked to DIY their retirement plan up to this point, are really engaged and love the sophistication that comes with advanced retirement planning. That's one reason we work with a lot of people with that mindset, because of how advanced that we do our planning for the specific crowd that we work with those with pensions in $1 million or more. And so what we typically see in those scenarios is that one person is really into it, as I mentioned, and the other person says, hey, I haven't had to worry about this. My spouse has done this. I don't want to do this. I have other responsibilities for the family. And so a lot of times they're worried that if that main decision-making spouse passes away, what will the other one do? How will they ensure the retirement plan will keep on moving? How will they know what decisions to make when that time comes? So we're going to break down this concern that a lot of people have, and we're going to give 5 considerations and planning strategies to know and make sure to implement to ensure that this is less of a concern for these types of people, to make sure everything is in place so there is no worry if that one person passes away.
Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
So we're going to get right into point number 1 here today. And our recommendation is that if you are in this type of situation, as I just explained, you want to make sure you're working with a trusted team, is what those tell us in this scenario. So again, you probably have DIY'd your plan up to this point, and you've probably done a fantastic job if you're watching this channel and you're the type of people that we talk about in this crowd here. And so with that being the case, you could continue to DIY it moving forward, and you probably will be successful. A lot of our clients know that they may miss opportunities if they do that, but they may enjoy it so much that, hey, why not? And so if that's the case, you could do that. But what is that going to look like if you pass away and now your spouse has to find a team? Are they going to be able to know what to look for to the same level that you're knowing what to look for? Are you going to be able to vet them out in that scenario if something happens to you first? And so that's why a lot of people like to get something set up in the first place to, one, make sure it works, make sure the communication works, make sure the planning is what they're looking for, make sure that they can truly trust this person with their spouse when they're no longer here, to ensure all the planning gets done the right way. And so that's something that when you're looking for that trusted team, make sure that they have what you're looking for. Make sure that, all the things that you're looking for get accomplished. So I would encourage people to make a list. What are the important things that you have in place when you're looking for an advisor? We have other videos that talk about the things to consider when, looking for an advisor. So hopefully that type of video can be helpful for you as well. But you have to consider, do you want a relationship with an advisor who's in person, or are you okay with someone who is virtual, right? A lot of our clients are all across the country, and that's one question we always ask them. We want them to feel comfortable with a virtual relationship, because some people may prefer in person, and so that can really weed out a lot of the people that you may not want to work with if you want someone that's in person. So that's a consideration. But also, how are they in involving your spouse? Does your spouse trust them? Does your spouse like them? Because if the main decision here is to ensure that a team is in place if you're no longer here, well, you better hope your spouse likes the team. You may love them, they may hate them. That's probably not going to be a good relationship. So that's why we always encourage in these scenarios, we want to ensure that the wife or the husband, whoever the person that is maybe not as involved, feels very connected and feels very good about the decision that they're making. And we typically will not bring someone on if that is not the case, or if they're not willing to be involved in the financial plan from the beginning so they know where to find us, because we just know that this is a very important decision for the families, and we don't want anything to go wrong as time goes on. And another funny one that you may want to consider is, hey, is that team going to be there for your retirement and your spouse's retirement if that's important to you? So we've had a lot of people that come to us because of our young presence here to know that we're we're going to be there for a while. And so a lot of people really value that concept, so they don't have to keep finding different teams or have to worry about the advisor retiring. There's going to be about 100,000 advisors retiring over the next 10 years. So it's about 1/3 of our population here, our advisor population. So there's going to be a high demand for people that are looking for retirement planning help, but not as many people to supply that demand. And so we are, trying to encourage more people to get in the industry, but obviously it is a gap. And so we always encourage people to make sure you find a team that will be there for you, that also you can get in before maybe they reach capacity. I have a lot of friends in the industry who do great work, and a lot of them have already reached capacity. They may not be able to hire people enough. They may not want to grow the business. And so they've shut their doors, and only the clients in are going to be able to get the service. And so that could be a real consideration as well when looking for a team to serve you. The second thing that a lot of people are worried about that we want to make sure people plan for before that time were to happen is what's called the widow's penalty. And so with the widow's penalty, this occurs when one spouse passes and now your taxes go from married filing jointly to single. And so this can cause your taxes nearly to double. So not only do your tax brackets get cut in half, so now you are taxed at the higher rate sooner is the concept, but also you are likely going to lose one of the Social Security benefits. So you're going to get the higher of the two benefits. You're going to get to keep one, but you're going to lose some income. So in most cases, we see a loss of income, but taxes still go up because of the different brackets there. And then also the standard deduction gets cut in half as well. And then also you're more likely to hit the Medicare tiers because the first tier is now 50% of what it would have been if you were married. So all of those things combined, along with the ability to have your Social Security more taxable, which is not necessarily a good thing, is all going to cause, typically in this scenario, for that survivor to get less of that income. And so we like to look at a lot of strategies to help reduce that concern for that surviving spouse before that time comes. And one strategy we encourage for many of our clients to look at doing is what's called a Roth conversion. And that's where you could utilize the married filing jointly rates now by moving some of the tax-deferred investments you have to tax-free while it's more advantageous, rather than waiting till the single rates to do a Roth conversion or take out income from your IRA to now where you're paying it at a higher tax rate and causing all the other concerns become more of an issue. So this is a proactive strategy that a lot of people like to get ahead of. So when that widow's penalty comes around, it's less of a concern, right? They still may have that pension continue on for the rest of their retirement in one of the Social Securities. But knowing that they don't have as much income from their tax-deferred investments can really help put them in a great position moving forward. So for a lot of our clients, we like to plan ahead of this, especially for our clients where we know that one spouse may likely pass away first. Maybe, they're older than the spouse. We do know that males live longer than females, so that could be something that helps us as we plan, or, just knowing what the health considerations are all things that we have to determine when making this decision. The third point that I want to break down is when to take Social Security. So this would be if you're still living, both spouses are still living, what are the pros and cons of taking it at 62 versus 70? Now, this isn't a recommendation because it's going to depend on your situation, and we tell clients to take it at all ages, but let's give you some considerations. If you wait till 70, that's going to allow the survivor benefit for the remainder spouse to be the highest possible moving forward. A lot of people like that concept, to know that if they do pass away, their spouse is going to have one of the Social Securities at the highest amount possible. So that could be a reason to wait till 70, but also on the last strategy we just talked about, Roth conversions, this could allow you to do more Roth conversions until 70 and do it during the most advantageous times so that you can max out on that while still having that guaranteed higher amount moving forward. So that could be a consideration. Now, the break-even point to take it at 70 is about age 80 to 83, depending on how you calculate it. So if you're not expecting to live that long or don't plan to live that long, then taking it early may be more wise for you to consider. But if you are expecting a life expectancy that's longer than that, or expecting for one of the spouses to have a life expectancy longer than that, then those are all of the important things to plan for as you make that decision. Now, the fourth thing that we need to be proactive about in our planning is deciding, do we need to take the survivor benefit on our pension? Or do we want to do something else? Maybe we want to replace that cost with life insurance instead, or maybe we want to just self-insure. Maybe you already have enough with your investments. Maybe the Social Securities are enough, or maybe your spouse has their pension of their own to rely on that is more than what they need. So that's the calculations that we have to determine when making this decision. But understand the survivor benefits typically are not free. You're typically very costly to ensure that your spouse can take 100% of your pension or 50% of your pension if you pass away. And as we know, if you pass away at age 80 and your spouse passes away at age 81, you paid for 10 to 20 years for this pension, and it only paid out for 1 year. And so you may not even be able to reap your benefits of this cost. Or if your spouse passes away first, then you basically paid for nothing. It's a sunk cost at that point. And when we run calculations for clients, it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars of added costs that they didn't necessarily have to pay if they're already insured enough from their situation, or maybe that their spouse is expected to pass away sooner. And so we really need to understand how that operates. And now, if you really want to make sure you've got a solid plan, but maybe be more smart about the planning, and maybe legacy planning is important to you, then you could always look at replacing the cost of what it would cost you to get that survivor benefit on that pension. And maybe you look to do some life insurance, whether that's term or permanent insurance, or maybe a combination of both of those, to ensure that you can fill that gap. But also in the scenario where your spouse passes away first, well, now it's just an inheritance that goes on to your kids. Or maybe you could use it to accelerate the death benefit for long-term care if that became a need, if you structure the policy the right way. Or maybe you just cash it out and take the cash value and get what you've paid into it back. And now you can do something else at that point if the plan has changed at that point. Adds a little more flexibility to the plan. So those are all considerations to think about, along with also deciding of which pension option should you take as far as a lump sum or a partial lump sum, or maybe none at all. That can also give you an added death benefit in a sense, knowing that that's going to be in your pocket from day one, that goes right over to your spouse or to your kids when you pass away. And so a lot of people like knowing that if they were to, pass away tomorrow and they did not take a survivorship option, well, having that lump sum could add even more value for that beneficiary. So when making this decision, always run your numbers, always make sure that spouse is going to be good to go no matter what you decide. It's the first and foremost, most important thing in this type of planning. But you always have to think, would you overinsure your house, for 5 times what you need to? You may not, right? It may not be worthwhile. And so you just have to make sure you're making that decision. A lot of people want to make sure their spouse is not lost, but they end up overpaying and overinsuring because they don't run the numbers. And so if you really want to make that optimal decision, again, it's an irreversible decision. So you can only make it when you retire on these pension options, but can be the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars over retirement when you make it the right way. So highly encourage you, work with a team, run your numbers, see what options are out there, open your mind to what's out there. And I've done some other videos on these concepts too that you can check out. If you're maybe close to that decision or wondering what you should do, that could be helpful for you. Now, the last point I want to make sure that you are planning for this widow's penalty scenario or planning for the loss of a spouse is make sure that your estate planning documents are in place today. This is not something you want to just keep delaying, because obviously, as we know, anything can happen at any time. And we all have examples and stories in our life of people passing away too soon. So it's important to have the basic documents in place, such as a power of attorney, such as a living will, such as a will and last testament, all of the basic documents. And then you need to look into considering a trust. A lot of our clients see the value of a trust, but you may not need one depending on what state you live in and the rules with that. And so you want to make sure you're getting an evaluation to see what is your current situation and do you need anything added. But we do see that about 30% of people pass away with an estate plan in place, which means that the majority of people don't have anything in place, which means there's still a plan. It's just not your plan. It's the government's plan, which can increase probate costs, that can ensure that the money doesn't go to where you wanted it to, or it could take more time. And so those are all things that we want to avoid. And if you've been through that scenario of probate with a loved one, it's a nightmare. It's not something that typically people would encourage others to go through. And so this is something you can easily plan for. This is something we help all of our clients facilitate all their estate planning documents so they don't have to go to 10 different professionals. We have the CPA in-house to ensure that everything's in place, nothing's missing. And we do see that you have to be very careful. A lot of maybe attorneys out there may look to overcharge for documents that you just may not necessarily need, or maybe it's just not the price that maybe it's worth. And so just be aware of that as you're looking for this plan. We don't necessarily recommend people to just go out and try to DIY it. This is something that is a very important decision, and you can't change it once it's done. And so just make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. And then in addition to your documents, you have to make sure that your beneficiaries are set up on all of your accounts. So the retirement accounts are going to pass by beneficiary. Your bank account is going to be payable on death, so that's going to be a beneficiary. And so all of those cases, you need to make sure those are updated with not only a primary beneficiary, but also a contingent. So if your spouse and you both pass away at the same time, let's say, well, now it can go on to someone else without any concerns of the probate or any other issues that could come up. And this is something you're going to want to review or evaluate over time. Maybe you thought you changed the beneficiaries, but maybe it didn't get completed. Maybe it wasn't even your fault. And so that's something you just want to make sure you're checking, make sure it's aligned, make sure everything's in place. You don't want to be in that scenario where you don't have that in place if something happens. And so those are the 5 things to consider in this scenario if you're, preparing for the loss of a spouse. And again, back to my point number 1 is make sure you find a trusted team to serve you ongoing for something this important. And if you've been watching our videos for a while, you like the type of planning we do, you feel like you connect with our team and our values, feel free to schedule a time if this is a concern for you. We help people all the time with this concern. It's one of the biggest reasons people work with us. And it's one of the things we get the most joy from is to be family oriented, to be there for their family when something happens to them. As you all know, my mom works with us here at Peak Retirement. My dad does a lot of work for us too. He helped remodel both of our offices here. We've got a lot of family members and friends of team members that work here as well. And this is something that's really important for us. Family values are one of the most important things to us. And so anything that we can do to help in that area is typically really encouraging for us. So we would encourage you, if that's you, go ahead and schedule a 15-minute call with our team so we can talk further to see, 1, if we could be a good fit, and 2, to make sure that we can, get a plan in place to make sure you're on the right track. And so we would encourage you, though, before you schedule that, to make sure you look through all of our frequently asked questions on our website just to ensure this is what you're looking for. The type of crowd that we work with, so we want to just make sure, we're the type of team to serve you as well. It's got to be a mutually beneficial relationship there. And obviously, as you know, we don't bring on every single person that reaches out, but we will make sure that we can at least guide you in the right direction. So again, that's all we've got on today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement. You can schedule time on our website or in the description below, and I'll have the team pop up a link here that you can click on as well. So we look forward to potentially chatting with you here. And if that's not for you, we hope to see you on more videos. Subscribe to our channel so that we can continue to give the education you're looking for to live that retirement that you've worked so hard for over all these years. So have a great rest of your day.